Welcome back to another round basis picks. Now there's 3 cards on this weekend, however I'm only doing a couple of fights from each one, so rather than do it in segments like I usually do, I'm just gonna run through the cards. No particular sequence, but I guess UK cards first, US card right at the end. Actually no, what I'm gonna do is do arguably the hardest fight to call last, and I do the rest beforehand. So before I get into it, as always, please like and subscribe, share with friends, associates, colleagues, family members, enemies, and anyone else in between. Also take a look at those memberships. More and more people are joining at the moment, so thank you. There's a couple videos there will be more throughout the week, and the more members, the more exclusive content for members. So yeah, please get signed up if you're really interested. If not, it's cool. Or if you want to try it 1 month and then dip off, no problems there either. Before I get into actual predictions and picks, I want to give a couple of honorable shout outs for some fights that are taking place. You've got Beatrice Ferreira taking on Carla Ramona Zamora. That's it. Carla Ramona Zamora, or something along those lines. Her 3rd professional fight. She's been out of the ring for quite a few months and I haven't heard much about Beatrice since last year, but I'm very keen to see what she does coming back. I think she went to the World Championship Amateurs to get another gold or something along those lines. So really looking forward to her performance tonight. I think she's going to show up and show out, making her UK debut. I'm sure that she'll get a lot of people on side. Also, want to give a shout out to Janae Boston. If you guys would have seen, I interviewed Janae for the Undefeated podcast channel back last month. I like Janae in terms of an actual fighter. I mean, I have said on the breakdown before that based on the way that I saw him fighting, he is a knockout waiting to happen because he carries his chin quite high. If he can work on tucking his chin, everything else in his game is perfect. Well, okay, not perfect, but you know what I mean. Like he's one to watch, but he just needs to make sure that chin stays tucked at all times, because he does back out with his chin in the air, and if he gets caught, hoping he's got a good chin, but even the best of chins can get tested when you back out like that, a little bit like Ryan Garcia. Who else is on cards? It's another, I guess, foregone conclusion type fights, but Ben Whittaker, I'm keen to see how he does tonight, and I think he's actually chief support, which is a bit crazy to think that he gets chief support over Natasha Jonas, but obviously Ben is being billed as sort of, I guess, the future star, so they want him as high up the card, so as much people as possible when they're tuning in actually watch his fight, so makes sense. Also on the Top Rank card, if they are actually being shown on the broadcast part that we get in the UK, I definitely do want to see a bit of Delonte Tiger Johnson, Jahi Tucker, and especially Abdullah Mason. I think that those 3 fights will be very fun and also very good for their growth and sort of their competitive edge within the pro game, and just gaining that experience. I think they're in there with 3 credible opponents. I expect them all to come through, but I just want to see how they've matured and improved since the previous fights that they've had. So yeah, that's all kind of the honorable mentions that I can remember off the top of my head. So now let's get into the fights over the weekend. Okay, so the first one that I want to basically talk about is Natasha Jonas versus Candy Wyatt. Now Natasha Jonas is coming down from 154 to 147, and she's fighting for the vacant IBF title, which was stripped off of Jessica McCaskill when she went down in weight to face Chantel Cameron and subsequently lost. There's some kind of rule that the IBF has apparently that you can't go down to challenge an opponent, you can only go up. So if you go down especially and lose, like you lose your belt, or if you go, I'm not sure if it's if you go down and lose, or if you just go down, you lose the belt. But it must be go down and lose, because Claressa Shields went down in weight from 160 to 154, and she got to keep her belt at 160. So not sure. Either way, this fight, Candy White's tough. She's come forward. She's gonna try and apply pressure to Natasha Jonas pretty much all night. She will sort of give it a go, but she's not quick enough for Tasha. Tasha's still a naturally smaller woman. Tasha's fundamentally more sound. She kind of has her feet under her, is able to punch pick from the outside. She will be able to get outside foot positioning, lead foot positioning, and I can see her driving that backhand home fairly regularly throughout this fight. And while I think Candy will pose her some questions, the fact that she's been up there against 154-pound girls for the last 3 fights stands Tasha in good stead to not have to worry necessarily about the power that's coming back or anything else. Candy White is 1 in her last 4 in terms of victories, and it wasn't against like the biggest of opposition either. So this to me is pretty much an easy victory for Natasha Jonas, and I am predicting a knockout around about sort of round 7 or round 8 of this 10 round 2 minutes per round contest. Moving on to my second fight of the evening that I'm interested in will be, it's actually gonna be Arslanbek Makhmudov against sorry, I've forgotten his name. Apologies. The Nigerian brother. I can't even go and get my phone to figure out. Either way, look, I saw some of him the other day. Like, he's a good, accomplished guy in terms of he's got, you know, a master's degree, very educated, tall, rangy, you know, he's a former basketball player, came on a basketball scholarship, never got drafted that way, did boxing to keep fit, and fell in love with the sport. And since then he's been, you know, kind of just going through the motions and, you know, building up his resume slowly but surely, but hasn't been in there with anyone of any credible note. Arslanbek Makhmudov, very big amateur. He was in the amateur system from very early, as is normally the case within Russia. Started boxing at the age of 9. He's now 33, 34. Yeah, he's not so much on the fast track, but he will not see a huge amount of problems from his opponent. And I am seeing a victory here within the first 3 rounds. If it goes past the 3rd, I'll be surprised. I mean, it will be good in terms of a watch, but I can just see Makhmudov getting the necessary work done and getting it done sort of within the first three rounds. By the 4th round, I see this fight being over. I haven't seen enough of the other guy in terms of his fights to think that he's got anything that's really going to trouble Arslanbek Makhmudov. But I do applaud him for taking the fight. What I will do is I'll put the name, I'll just put it on the screen because it's a bit disrespectful that I forgot his name, but it just went out of my head. Started recording. That's what happens. A bit less of a interest. Well, actually, the next one, let's go for Jared Anderson versus Charles Martin. Now, obviously, it should have been Jared Anderson versus Zanko Subotsky, which was a 19-0 with 18 KO record versus a 15-0 with a 14 KO record. Now, Zanko Subotsky was unable to get a visa into the US. I don't know who decided to wait so long to try and apply for the visa to realize that there was these issues. I'm sure that should have really been sorted out before. But I mean, could there have been shenanigans? Could it have been a case where, they thought that maybe the test wasn't right based on some stuff they saw from Jared in interviews and all that, so they delayed the visa application until such a time as it couldn't have got cleared in time? Speculation, all good. Either way, Charles Martin has stepped in, still southpaw, former world champion. I guess has a bit more of a name profile than Kusabutski, but the Kusabutski fight from a marketing perspective was it was sort of better interest because it was two undefeated knockout merchants on the card facing each other. Same as the undercard, which the chief support is the same thing. Two undefeated prospect knockout merchants. It sold itself in that aspect. Now it's just sort of the prospect versus the, I guess, pseudo gatekeeper. Now Charles Martin, the one thing he will do, he will pose some questions to Jared Anderson. He's the taller guy. I think he's got the longer range. He's definitely a lot more switched on for boxing than he was like back when he sort of fought Anthony Joshua. But the problem he's gonna have is that Jared Anderson is even more athletic than Anthony Joshua is, much quicker, and while he will sort of leave himself open to getting countered, the shots that he throws and the speed at which he throws them makes it quite hard for you to actually catch that timing early, especially if that's what your game is. And someone like Charles Martin, who's not the quickest of guys, is probably gonna fall foul of that. But he will pose some problems, and he is fairly durable, so I don't see that he's going to just get taken out in the first couple of rounds. I don't think this is going to be a 2-round job like what Anthony Joshua did. I do think it will go a little bit longer because Charles Martin will be a bit more cautious, and he will give the necessary respect, unlike what he did in the Joshua fight. I do see ultimately though him getting worn down sort of in the early mid stages of the fight, and I can see him getting taken out, ref stoppage or knockout at the time of around, I would say around 6 to 7. If it goes past that, I would be very shocked. I wouldn't be surprised if it ended sort of in the 4th or the 5th, but I do see it sort of going a good couple of rounds with Jared Anderson having to work on a few things, possibly even come through a momentary crisis where maybe he gets caught with something quite big and he has to readjust and reset. But my prediction is for Jared Anderson to get the KO in and about round 6 to 7. Okay, so now moving on to the main event of the Matchroom card, which is Dalton Smith versus Sam Maxwell. Dalton Smith, this is his opportunity to win the British title outright, which is something that not a lot of people do these days, so it is a bit of a prestigious thing to, especially if you are at that level and that is your ceiling. It's always good to clean out the division so you say you are the best of the country. Sam Maxwell, Commonwealth champion, sort of bouncing back off of his defeat up at European level, shock defeat unfortunately, but he has had a fight since. He fought in February. I interviewed both of these guys back last month as well. It was both real cool people. Pleasure to chat to. I got on with both of them in the interviews. I feel like I kind of had a bit more of a connection and a belief in what Sam Maxwell was telling me. The only problem is I do think that Dalton Smith is more on the ascendancy still, and Sam Maxwell is not so much on the decline, but I feel like he's at a plateau, and I'm not sure if his plateau will rise again or if he'll just sort of stay consistent until such a point as he maybe dips down. Now, Dalton is good. I don't think he's as good as people make out, but he is good and he's still obviously learning. There's still a long ways to go, which is, like I said, he's still on the ascendancy. The question is his ascendancy where Maxwell has been and competed at? I think this is going to be a very, very tough fight for both guys. I think both guys are going to show their strengths and their weaknesses in this one. I think Dalton might try to rush his work a couple of times and end up getting caught and feeling a shot because of it. I do think Sam Maxwell will have the experience to not jump, at every single opportunity and potentially get either countered or like blow out his lungs, and have to sort of take rounds off, in which case he can then get sort of get worked over by Dalton Smith. But ultimately, look, I think that this fight is Dalton Smith's chance to prove that he is ready for the next step above that British level, going towards sort of European on a gradual trajectory up towards world. I think he still needs like another 3 or 4 fights before he gets to a level where you can say, all right, let me challenge for a title of any merit. But I do think in this particular fight, just based on freshness and momentum, I think that Dalton Smith will just about get a decision here. I think it will be a UD, but I think it will be close. So I'm gonna go for Dalton Smith on a unanimous decision. I can't remember if on my other betting sheet I put down majority, but I think it's definitely going to be kind of a 115, 113 type fight, possibly even a majority with one draw card. But yeah, I see Sam Maxwell accounting himself well, maybe falling just short at the final hurdle, but Dalton Smith sort of taking it and sort of going on to bigger and better. And I think Sam Maxwell will still end up, if he doesn't decide to kind of call it quits, I think he'll get another sort of big domestic fight off the back of this one. So we'll see. Right, now for the main one, which is Franchon Cruz-Dezurn versus Savannah Marshall. I've been going back and forth in my head as to how I see this one playing out. Momentum is quite clearly on Franchon Cruz's side. I mean, she's undefeated since her pro debut. Admittedly not fought the who's who of the divisions, but she's fought some very credible opposition. Aline Cederuz was, that was a very credible match for her when she fought Alejandra Jimenez. I think she fought her at 168, and she was coming down from heavyweight, and Jimenez was on all types of performance enhancers. And I think Franchon ended up losing that fight on, I think it was a split decision that she ended up losing, but obviously the loss got rescinded and she got her belts back based on the fact obviously Jimenez was on PEDs, and Franchon did actually hit her with some shots that she basically, the girl just walked through them. So it's like, oh, okay, how do you just walk through those with no visible signs of damage kind of thing? So that's Franchon's side of things. And she's, as an American, African American woman, like her confidence, like the way that a lot of them present themselves and their confidence, it's almost like second to none. They put themselves in a mental, it's like a mental battleship, like we're going to war and you are not going to take what I've got. On the other side, you got Savannah Marshall. Obviously, confidence took a bit of a knockback last October. Said that she stayed out of the gym for 4 months, but went back in. Her and Peter patched everything up. They've been working on their game. They wanna employ more of a boxing style in this one rather than being aggressive. Stylistically, this fight matches up perfectly for Savannah Marshall's attributes. Long, rangy, tall. Try to keep Franchon on the outside, catch her with shots as she's coming in, if she sort of tries to come in a bit reckless. But when you look at them, even though Savannah Marshall is the clearly taller of the two, Franchon Cruz isn't that short. She's about 5'8", Marshall's about 5'11", maybe 6 foot. But Franchon Cruz is very good at actually cutting the distance and getting to the inside of her opponents. Aline Cederuz is very similar dimensions to Savannah Marshall in terms of height and reach, and even sort of foot speed, but yet Franchon was able to get inside her range all night and land that overhand right. Now, Aline Cederuz is more upright, more stationary, where Savannah is a bit more herky-jerky, a bit more flexible. Sort of she dips her knees, she creates angles a bit more. She bends at the waist, she rips rides and rolls as well. So I don't see Franchon being able to catch her cleanly all night with the overhand right. But what I do see is Franchon will be able to cut the distance. Obviously she's 36 now, so there's no telling how much that year off between the first fight, the fight that she had last year in April, to this fight now in July, if there's been a lot of slowdown. She's also got a lot of things going on outside the ring, which is obviously good for her brand, but like, how serious does she really take the boxing? I think that she loves it from a you know, a training aspect, but in terms of like that dog mentality, I know that she's got grit and she's definitely tough, but is she really like in the trenches honing her craft day in day out? I don't know, because she spends a lot of time making people's costumes and, you know, going to the studio and making music, you know, running fashion weeks and all sorts of stuff. So I just don't know how much her head's in it. But that being said, there's just something about Franchon which is telling me like she called for this fight. Now maybe she might have overlooked Savannah, thinking, oh well, Savannah, because Claressa beat Savannah, I can beat her. But that's not how it works, especially when you don't have the same attributes as Claressa. That being said, the fight that she had with Claressa that she lost, it was only a 4-round fight, and she actually roughed up Claressa quite a bit in that fight as well. So if she can make this fight dirty, like, I feel like she can maybe get to Savannah and try to maybe break her will a little bit and make her sort of go into her shell. My problem is, I don't think, unless she scores like loads of overhand rights and clean shots like to the temple, or busts up Savannah's face to a point where like she just visibly looks like this crimson mass, blood gushing all over the place, I don't think a lot of the work that she's going to be doing, both to get onto the inside, work into the body, and, you know, sort of that lunging jab that she does to the body to get into range to throw the overhand right, I don't think a lot of that is going to be appreciated by the judges. And I just can't see Savannah Marshall losing 2 on the bounce in her home country, you know, when she's obviously the person that they're trying to build up, especially when they do want that rematch with Claressa Shields from a marketing perspective. So for that particular reason, as much as I think Franchon can do the business in this fight, I just don't think that she's going to get a decision. So my prediction for this fight is going to be split decision victory to Savannah Marshall. I don't think she's going to knock Franchon out. I think Franchon's too wily for that, too slick for that, too tough, too rugged. Like, she won't be denied, but she will get hurt. I do think that Savannah will get hurt as well, but I think that she will do just enough to come through this fight. And yeah, so my prediction is going to be split decision for Savannah Marshall. Guys, leave your comments down below. Let me know who you think's gonna win. Try and do it before the fights start. No you know, armchair quarterbacks or after hours commentary, please. Get them in as quickly as you can. Let's see who's right, who's wrong. Let's have a bit of fun with it. And yeah, if there's any other fights you want any quick comments on, like before they start, leave them in the chat and I'll try and write as much as I can. I've got a few things I need to do and I'm already running behind, so we'll see where we get to. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe and share. As always, leave your comments. For right now, Spaces Picks locked.